Hi guys, it's Emily from Novel Novels and welcome to today's video. This is my May wrap up part 2 and the month got better, thankfully. It got really good. Still, nowhere near as much 5 stars as normal, but I have actually got some, and I must admit the favourite is very hard to pick which one is my favourite. Enough rambling, this is going to be a long video because I've read a lot of books. So let's get started with the stats first, and then I can't timestamp it, but stats is going to be the first thing I'm going to talk about. So I started off my May unread TBR with 433 books. Now these stats, if you're watching this, or if you're someone that's going to judge me, skip forward a minute or two. I bought 49 books, although I think 17 were included in my haul with Gemma. So when I do my May book haul, I won't be including the books with Gemma because obviously they're in that video that's already come up, which I'll link below. I was gifted 12 books, which is great, thank you all. I read 33 books off my physical unread TBR, and I unhauled 6 books. You'll find out more about those in my try chapter tag video that will be out later this month. So my June unread TBR is now 455 books. Yes, that is a lot, but it's only 12 extra on last month, and I've had a lot of shopping trips. So that's not too bad. I've read a total of 38 books. Yay! I love that! Although I wish it was higher star ratings, but that's all right. So now I'll tell you the genres, which I stupidly wrote on the wrong page. So I've read 2 fantasy, 2 thriller, 3 non-fiction, 8 classics, which is pretty darn good, 9 historical fiction, and 14 contemporaries. Yes, like I said, I'm mixing what would have been classed as chick lit with the contemporary, so it does include quite a lot in that genre. But I'm trying to do a lot of self-care. I'm trying to read books that are going to make me happy and be comfortable to read. I've also started not rating some of my non-fiction books, and that's because I don't feel like I've got the right to rate them, and some of my classics haven't been rated. So enough of the talk. So the stats bit's over. Let's get on with showing you my books. I read a total of, by the way, sorry, 1 2-star, actually I will go a little bit more stats. 1 2-star book, 1 2.5-star book, 8 3-star books, 3 3.5-star books, 11 4-star books. That's not bad. 4 stars, 11 of those. That was probably my highest rating. 2 4.5-star books, and I didn't add up my 5 stars, but I did. 7 5-star books, which isn't as high as normal, but that's not bad. I think I was watching Lauren's video. I think I'm getting a lot harder at rating my 5-star books. So to get a 5-star for me it takes a lot more now. So now I can finally talk about the books I've read. Like I said, because I've read so many books, I can't go into very deep descriptions on them. Please check out my story graph, which I think is down under Novel Novels, and my Goodreads for some reviews. They will give you more. And if you want any more opinions on this, let me know. There are spoilers and trigger warnings that are on my story graph, because I think that's the best place to put them. So I won't be giving any out when I review the books, okay? But like I said, you can also message me down below, or message me on Instagram if you want to know if there's any triggers or what the triggers were. Okay. So the 2 non-fiction books, the 2 books that I haven't rated were Too Scared to Tell by Kathy Glass. This is one of her foster caring books, and this is about a boy called Oscar. Oscar's school teacher raises the alarm. His mother is abroad and he's left in the care of friends, but arriving at school hungry, unkempt, and with bruises on. There are triggers on this. Please be careful. If you know Kathy Glass works, you know that fostering is important, and you know that there are going to be some triggers in this, so be warned. But this is, again, Kathy Glass' writing is amazing. Her fostering is amazing. She brings back all the right memories of when we fostered as a child, and love her book so much. Then the second unrated book, because I really don't feel again that I can rate this, is Katie Piper's second autobiographical book, which is Beautiful Ever After. Again, beautiful writing, hard-hitting. It really is tackling with her growing, and at the start it talks about the fact she's going to become a mum. As we all know now, I think she's got 2 children. But this is how she gets to that point and how her life changes. So really inspirational. And now I go on to my 3-star books. So, the first one is Island on the Edge of the World by Deborah Rodriguez. And sorry guys, yet again, hay fever. This is my second Deborah Rodriguez book, and again, I think the first one I rated 3 stars, and this is very similar. I've got a third book on the shelves. Do you guys think I should read it, or do you think I should unhaul it? Please let me know in the comments below. There is, as always with this author, she has 4 lead characters. In this, they're called Charlie, Bee, Lisbeth and Senzi. All very different women with very different battles. And it's sort of set in, I think it's set in Haiti. I've not said that wrong. And they're very different women. They're fighting to find a lost child. Again, very hard hitting. There are some triggers in this. But it is a good book. It's just, I'm just not sure if this writer is for me. So it only got 3 stars. Now, a good old contemporary book that I wanted to get off my shelves, and it's one of Lisa Jewell's contemporaries, Prince and Joy. This is about two very different people who become sort of, they get together when they're kids, when they're on a holiday, when they're young teenagers. And their relationship is backwards and forwards. It was backwards and forwards with the timelines, and it tells their story. It's quite good, but it's not one of Lisa Jewell's best contemporaries in my opinion. But it's one I'm going to unhaul. And then The Camwell Law, which you guys know was on my Try a Chapter video. And I'm glad I read it, but it's not anything as special. It's about, you start off, and it's for the readathon by the way, the 1920s to 1900s, 1950s readathon. And this is set in the dizzying heights of August 1939. 5 cousins are gathered at their aunt's house for an annual ritual of their holiday. For most, this is the last summer of their youth. And this talks about the cousins. Again, you're backwards and forwards on timelines. It's all right. I'm glad I read it. I'm glad that the Try Chapter tag got off my shelves, but it's not one I will reread. So the next one is a 3.5 stars, and that's The Day We Meet Again by Miranda Dickinson. This is a lovely, easy contemporary. I think, to me, Miranda Dickinson is someone I would go to for an easy contemporary, but not someone I would pay full price for her books for. And this is about Phoebe and Sam, who meet by chance at St Pancras station, heading in opposite directions, both seeking their own adventures. Meeting the lovers of their life wasn't part of the plan, so they make a promise to meet again in a year's time. And this is about their adventures and whether they'll get together in the end. I'm not going to spoil you and tell you what's going on. It's a good contemporary, but not necessarily one that I would pay full price for. But again, it was good. It was a good cosy read to read at bedtime. And now I go into my 4-star books. Now, to me, a 4-star book is a book that's really good. Not necessarily one I will reread, but really good. Excuse me, hey sugar. You can see the sun's out and Chris is doing gardening at the moment. So now, this is the book that I was reading over 2 months, Dr. Thorne by Anthony Trollope. This is the 3rd in the Barchester Chronicles. Not my favourite, but one I'm really glad I read. I'm looking forward to the 4th one. And this is about Dr. Thorne, but it isn't just about Dr. Thorne in my eyes. It's more about Frank Gresham and Mary Thorne, the niece of Dr. Thorne, and their relationship. I love Anthony Trollope's work. He is a really great author, and I love his work so much. And this is one I'm really glad I read. I'm reading it with an Instagram group, and check it out. They're reading the whole of the Barchester Chronicles. Thoroughly enjoyed this. 4 stars, but again, it's the 3rd in the series. I'm looking forward to reading the next ones over June and July. Can't wait. This is a book I picked up purely because of my sister Charlie. You guys know her nickname is Charlie Rats, and in The Year of the Rat, but I didn't realise how much hard-hitting stuff this would tackle. This tackles grief, loss, parenting, loss of a sibling, and it tackles grief in such a great way. To Pearl, there is nothing sweet about her premature sister Rose. It was Rose that caused her mother's death, and Rose that turned her world upside down. Again, there are triggers, but they are put on in my storygraph effect. But this is really good. Lovely YA book, one I'm glad I read, and yeah, it's really good. I'm glad I read it, but I didn't realise how hard it was going to be. So it won't be kept. Now the next one is one that I buddy read with the lovely Gemma from Read a Book Gem. This is, first of all, set in 1957. 19-year-old Lewis Aldridge stands alone at the Waterford railway station. The only person waiting his return is 15-year-old girl called Kit Carmichael. Like him, she endured a childhood set in its stifling atmosphere of an English village recovering from the war. A decade earlier, Lewis was waiting for his father's homecoming. This again is tackling quite a lot. There is a lot of triggers in this, so again, please check out my story graph. This is very slow paced. I liked Lewis's character. I felt for him. I really wanted to fight for him. I felt for Kit, but there was again so many triggers in this that I found it quite hard certain points of this book. And it's quite slow paced. It's good, and it's 4 stars because it did get me gripped. It did keep me wanting to read it. But it's you need to really involve yourself in this book. And I'm glad I've already read it with Gemma, because obviously I love reading with Gemma. But not one I will be keeping. Now, another non-fiction book. I've rated it 4 stars, but I don't know if I should have not rated it, really. And that's 4 Meals at Fourpence. And that's a heartwarming tale of the family in London's Old East End. And this is, again, this is Grace. This is a non-fiction book, so it's Grace's actually story. And this is set, first of all, in Wapping in London in the early 1900s. And in the East End of London. Very hard-hitting. I shouldn't have really rated it, but it's one I'm going to possibly give to my mum. Really good book if you want to know about London in that time, not necessarily the wartime, which is what most of my books I've read from London is set in. And it's quite a nice sort of family story, but it's hard-hitting. The next one is Ivy Lane by Cathy Brownlee. Now, Cathy Brownlee is a great writer, a great contemporary writer, and I will certainly pick up all of her work. This is about Tilly Parker. And it's put the 4 seasons set in the allotments in their town, and there's like a family within a family within a family, and it's really lovely environment. Again, there are triggers, but this is so good. It's such a lovely contemporary environment about family that not being family. It's about friendly people and friendships and real development, and I love this book. It's really, really good. Really enjoyed that, but not one I'm going to keep. It's really, really good. One of my thrillers for the month. I read this purely because I'd heard lots of great things about this author from Berna's Bookish Adventures, and this is a thriller. I do not want to tell you too much about it, but when a young woman is found dead, the detective and forensic pathologist are called in to find out what happened, and it's a murder mystery, and it's got quite gory, quite dark, but the writing is good. I definitely plan to look at more of Tessa Gerritsen's works, but I won't read them when I'm in a dark place because they are very hard-hitting. It's a 4-star thriller, which isn't bad. The next one is one from Gemma's favourite author, which is Rose Tremaine, and this is The Colour. And this is set in the 1700s, I believe, and mainly in New Zealand, and this is about a couple that emigrate from Norfolk to New Zealand. I found this quite slow-paced, but when I got into it, it was actually really good, and the characters are quite good. But this is one you have to really push forward to stay into it. And this is about Joseph and Harriet, but there are other characters within it, and it's quite interesting. I'm not 100% on Rose Tremaine as much as Gemma is, but I do want to read all of her work. But she's not. I'm sorry, Gemma, she's not as much for me as she is for you. But it's a really good book, and it's one I'm glad I read. Then the first in the villains story. So this is of all the villains, the sort of the Disney villains, and this is about. I think this is Snow White's, the villain in Snow White, and this is her story. This is the first in the series. I've read the Beauty Beast, and I've read the 4th one. I've read the 2nd and the 4th, so I wanted to read the first in the series. This is really good. This really is telling the Snow White's queen's, the evil queen in Snow White's story, and about why she did what she did to Snow, and it's really good. So I really love it. To me, it's better than the Twisted Tales. The Twisted Villains ones are better than the Twisted Tales, in my opinion. And I really enjoyed that. And I'm going to keep that. That's actually my keepy. My first keepy! Yay! Then I borrowed Transcendent Kingdom by Yagagasi from my sister Charlie. And this is really good. It's 4 stars, but it's the top end of 4 stars because it really is about... It's a woven narrative, so you've got different timelines in it about a woman trying to survive the grief of her brother lost to addiction and a mother trapped in depression while she's only pursuing her own ambitions. This is really good. I don't need to talk too much about this. You've all heard about this book. Thoroughly loved it. Really good. But again, it is hard-hitting. It's tackling grief in a really hard-hitting way. So, really glad I read that. I also had an audiobook, which is the Greek Island of Escape by Patricia Wilson, I think it was. And that's got 2 time zones. It's about different women that are having to tackle their own obstacles, the different timelines and their own sort of different battles, but they're interwoven really lovelyly. It's a book I listened to, an audiobook from BorrowBox, my library app, one I thoroughly enjoyed. I definitely recommend people look on BorrowBox to listen to their audiobooks, because I've found some real gems in that. And now to my 5 stars. Here we go. Now, I'm not going to tell you which is my favourite out of these, but I'm guessing most of you are going to guess what they are. Firstly, I read a library book. I got this from the library. It's Sarah Barnard's most recent book, Destination Anywhere. It's set mainly in Canada, and you guys know I love Canada. If you've watched my Q&A video, you know it's a country that I would love to go and visit. And it's about a girl that decides she's going to travel across Canada, because at the start she's been bullied. Basically, she's been bullied all her childhood and her school years. Peyton King is determined to find her own happiness, and this is her story. It's interwoven within the story of how she got there and why she decided to go to Canada. Again, there are triggers in this. It's a YA book, but it's one that you can really relate to, because if you think that so many of us have been bullied, so many of us have had hard-hitting things, and it's done in such a great way, and it's a truly inspiring book. I love Sarah Barnard's books. She is one of my favourite authors, YA authors, and I will be picking up all of her books. I may even pay full price for them. Now, this is one that you guys knew I was really looking forward to. Take a Hint, Dani Brown, which is the second in the Brown Girl series by Talia Hibbert. Thoroughly loved this. Deserves 5 stars all the way, and it's Dani's story. Now, Dani Brown is very she comes across as quite hard, like she doesn't want a relationship. She's pretending to be in this relationship with this guy, Sophia. And Sophia's got his own problems. And when he rescues her, they decide to get money for to Sophia's charity. They pretend to be in a relationship. And it's about how they get together and their story. Buddy read this for the lovely Guy from Guy Athena. Thoroughly loved it. Every bit as good as Taking Chloe Brown. Let's Get a Life, Chloe Brown. Love this. Can't wait to read the last one in the series in August. But Dani Brown's story is brilliant. It does body positivity. It tackles grief. It tackles so many things, and it does it in a way that you really empathise with the customers. Yes, there is a lot of sexy scenes in this, a lot of raunchy scenes. Bloody good. Love that book so much. Now, the last of my classics, but one I buddy read with Ange from Angie's Books Chatter, Dani from Spinelli Speaks, and Laura from Book Bubbler, East of Eden. It's my first John Steinbeck book, and one that everyone recommended me to read. I read it with those girls over 2 months. 5 stars all the way. You do have to bear in mind that the writing is from the early 1900s, so you're looking at some of the phrases it uses could be classed as racist and a wrong term now. But this really is about, if you think about it, it relates to the story of Eden, the 2 brothers, Cain and Abel, and that sort of story runs through this book. We start off with the Trasks. It's mainly about the Trasks, but you also have the Hamiltons, and it interweaves their stories. And you have the ultimate baddie, Kathy, in this. She is the worst, the best of the worst villains, in all the best ways. This book is one of my favourite classics I've ever read. It's a modern classic, and it's amazing. It's one that I want to reread again. It's just an amazing, amazing book, and I thoroughly love that. And I could talk about that all day. The next one was a book that I got sent the ARC of. So it's the 6th, Tudor Queen's The Sixth Wife, Catherine Parr. And it's the last in the Tudor Queen series. I love this book. I got sent the ARC by Tandem. I was gifted it. It's gifted to read and review. I've given a really good review on Goodreads and on Instagram, so please check out that review because I can talk about it more. It's amazing. I didn't know as much about Catherine Parr as I thought I did, and this is one that I would recommend to everyone to read because it is just such a great book. If you've loved the other books in the series, and now Catherine Parr is probably my favourite of the Queens. Loved this book, really love it, and I really think you should all read that. And then last out of my 5 stars is Detransition Baby, which is by Tori Peters, which is about a baby that's created by someone who has transitioned first from male to female and then detransitions. And once they've detransitioned, they didn't think that they could make a baby, but they do, and it's their story interwoven with another character, Reese, who's transgender, and her story about how she wanted to be a parent but couldn't because of that. And that's really about heartbreaking, about parenthood, and there are some real triggers in this again, so please be aware of that. Look them out on my story graph because there are some. but be aware that there are also lots of sexy scenes. I found this very informative. I didn't realise so many things about the transgender, about the history of that, about the problems they go through. I really think this is such an informative and great book, but there are triggers, and it's one that I'm really glad I found that from the library. So I'll give you guys a few minutes. What do you think is my favourite book? Let me know in the comment below if you predicted it. So I'm going to say, obviously, take the hint, Dani Brown. But actually, I've changed my mind about what I was going to say the other favourite is. Now, because originally, I was going to say it was East of Eden. But looking back, I'll be honest with you, my other favourite book of the month has to be Destination Anywhere by the lovely Sarah Barnard. Fantastic book, one I would pick up, and I'm tempted to look for it full price because it was such a great book. If you guys like this video, give it a thumbs up. If you're new to my channel and not subscribed yet, ring on my ding-a-ling, and I'll see you all soon. And let me know in the comments below, by the way, guys, what was your favourite book of the month? I'm desperate to hear. And thank you all for your amazing support. You're amazing. And hope you all have a great summer and a great month in June. Bye bye.